My neighbor thought he got away, hiding bodies in trash bags. He doesn't know I saw everything. My fat orange cat Cheeto went missing, and it was my responsibility to find him. But what I found was so much worse. Cheeto had been part of our family for 8 years and never wandered far from our backyard because he was lazy. I was 23 and home from college for the summer working at a hardware store, while my younger sister Morelli was only 10 and completely devastated. We searched everywhere for Cheeto those first few days. I printed missing cat posters and stapled them to every telephone pole in the neighborhood. Morelli and I walked up and down the streets calling his name until our voices went hoarse. Mom posted on all the local Facebook groups while Dad checked the animal shelter every morning. But Cheeto had just vanished without a trace. After 2 weeks, the search efforts started dying down, and I was ready to let that fat mofo go. Mom gently suggested we might need to accept that Cheeto wasn't coming back. Dad stopped checking the shelter, but Morelli kept leaving Cheeto's favorite treats on the back porch every night, and I couldn't bring myself to tell her to stop. She'd sit by her bedroom window for hours watching for any sign of orange fur. 3 weeks after Cheeto disappeared, I was making a delivery for the hardware store to a house about 6 blocks from ours. It was the Jacobson place, and their 17-year-old son Gabriel had ordered a bunch of weird stuff: steel wire, heavy-duty gloves, medical gauze, and antiseptic spray. I loaded everything into the truck thinking maybe they were building a fence or something. When I pulled up to their house, Gabriel was already waiting in the driveway. He looked nervous and kept shaking and glancing back at his garage like he was waiting for his crack dealer. His hands were covered in scratches, and there were dark brown stains on his shirt that were impossible to ignore. He grabbed the boxes from me quickly and shoved cash in my hand without counting it. I was about to leave when I heard it, a high-pitched yowling sound coming from inside the garage. It sounded exactly like a cat in distress, and my heart started pounding. Gabriel's face went white, and he stepped in front of the garage door. "Thanks you, senor," he said in this terrible white accent. But the yowling got louder and more desperate. Something felt very wrong about the whole situation. I pretended to check my phone for the next delivery while really trying to see through the garage windows. Gabriel kept shifting nervously and telling me I should probably get going. That's when I spotted something orange, something fat through a crack in the garage door. My stomach dropped as I recognized Cheeto's plumpy, fat, white paw. I forced myself to stay calm and told Gabriel I needed him to sign a delivery receipt. While he was distracted looking for a pen, I walked closer to the garage pretending to admire his bat collection or whatever. Through the window I could see inside, and what I saw made me physically gag like when I watched Vampire Diaries. There were at least 6 cats in wire cages stacked against the wall. Some were lying still while others were pawing desperately at the bars. On a table in the center I could see surgical tools laid out next to bottles of chemicals. There were bloody rags in a bucket and torn collars scattered on the floor. Cheeto was in one of the lower cages, and even from outside I could see my obese boy was hurt. His fur was matted with blood and he was using his back leg. The other cats looked even worse. Gabriel must have realized I'd seen inside because he suddenly got aggressive. He stepped toward me and said I needed to leave right now or he'd call the cops for trespassing. First of all, his breath stank, and while his hands were shaking, I noticed fresh scratches all over his arms. I backed away slowly and told him no problema muchacho, while my mind raced trying to process what I'd just witnessed. As soon as I got in the truck, I called 911. My voice was shaking as I told the dispatcher about the cats and the surgical tools and the red Kool-Aid. I gave them the exact address and said I was pretty sure one of the cats was mine, the orange fat one. You couldn't miss it. They said they'd send officers immediately and told me to wait nearby but not to approach the house again. Within 10 minutes, 3 police cars and an animal control van pulled up to the Jacobson house. I watched from down the street as officers went to the door. Gabriel's parents answered looking confused, and the officers explained they'd received a report. At first the parents seemed angry, but then the officers showed them something on a phone and their faces changed completely. The garage door opened and I could hear cats crying from inside. Animal control officers started bringing out cage after cage of injured cats. I counted at least 12 before I saw them struggle to carry out Cheeto. He was alive but clearly hurt. One of the officers waved me over and asked me to identify my cat. Cheeto meowed weakly when he saw me, and I almost started crying right there. They arrested Gabriel on the spot for animal cruelty. Turns out he'd been trapping neighborhood cats and was snipping their balls and declawing them in his garage. He thought he was helping control the cat population, but was actually torturing these poor animals. Several cats didn't survive his experiments and were found in trash bags behind the garage. Cheeto needed real surgery to fix what Gabriel had done to his walnuts. The vet said he was lucky we found him when we did because infection was already setting in. Morelli cried happy tears when we brought Cheeto home with a cone around his neck and stitches on his belly and family jewels. He recovered slowly, but eventually went back to his old self eating food, and that's it really. Gabriel got sentenced to juvenile detention and mandatory psychiatric treatment. I think if Cheeto saw Gabriel today, he'd probably eat him whole.